Once Sam Walton said, there is only one boss. This is the customer. And this boss can fire any employee, including the CEO, simply by spending his or her money elsewhere. Today, when the industry is experiencing tectonic shifts in customer behavior, it is incredibly important to identify new tools and methods that will help us resolve the age-old task, that is, making sure that our only boss, the consumer, spends his or her money with us. My name is Alekseenko. I'm the head of Teradata in Russia. You probably know that Teradata is the global leader developing data analytics solutions for the largest accounts around the world. As we're helping our clients, we are exposed to the future way before it happens, or it becomes the subject of discussion for many other people. So in the course of our work, we see that many industrial changes are slow, fast systems. That is, they first start changing slowly, but then rapid changes start happening. And this is what we saw in the UK and the USA this year. I guess a similar chart would seem smoother for Russia, except for certain categories. However, tomorrow, I guess, our consumers are going to make our lives more interesting by bringing in new variables into our equation. As I'm observing these trends, I want to call a spade a spade. So will major retailers be able to survive without digital ecosystems? In order to answer this question, I invite us all to look into our methodology for the business of the future, in particular for the retail vertical. So I suggest that we look at individual examples, and I do have quite a lot of vivid examples for various areas, and also we can have a joint discussion of the steps that need to be taken in order for us to stay in this game. So let's try enumerating all these building blocks. We started this activity in 2019 when we analyzed some of our most advanced clients. We looked at their business successes across a swath of markets, and we were able to identify 5 key areas which we believe enumerate or encompass, rather, the key capabilities companies need to excel in the future. One is hyper-personalization. Now, it is common knowledge that corporations know everything about us. We have come to expect it. We've come to expect that each interaction we have with a business will be based on the history of previous interactions, and maybe some additional insights will also be available to the company. So we have come to expect corporations to be able to come up with offers that make a lot of sense to us. Maybe tailor-made offers. Next one is ecosystem integration. Well, what we mean here is visibility of the customer, not just within the purview of a specific product, but rather having total transparency or end-to-end view of a customer as opposed to just a chunk of his wallet. If you do have such an integrated ecosystem, this is great news for everybody. This is great news for the client, this is great news for the partners, and this is great for you. Autonomous actions and solutions. Well, it is common knowledge that AI is performing nothing short of a revolution. I'd like to say that the revolution has already happened. You know, all the key things have already been invented. We simply need to start using what has been invented in our daily work. Interestingly, leading organizations are already implementing thousands or even millions of agents that make all sorts of decisions, big and small, and I am going to provide you with specific examples a bit later. Omnichannel has become a byword. What I'm saying here, though, is that intellectual or smart AI interface is in fact more important than multi-channel offers. As users, we are accustomed, whichever channel we're using, we are accustomed to multi-channel experience. We may go from a brick-and-mortar store to a mobile channel and then, use a desktop to access the same brand and potentially continue the same transaction. And if we have to reintroduce ourselves, this seems like an inconvenience. People of my generation may feel okay-ish if they have to introduce themselves again when they're calling the same call center, but I'm certain that the next generation will have no time for suppliers like this. And obviously, ubiquitous analytics and openness form another major cluster. There is great demand in the market now for proper assurance that you are a decent corporation and you're managing client data properly. So, in terms of hyper-personalization, it's important to remember that the client is the segment. And the digital world has already taught us that desires are to be satisfied instantaneously. You press a button and the taxi arrives. You press a button and your fridge is stocked. You press a button and the movie starts rolling. So, if you press a button and then there is some friction, or there is a disruption, or there is a long pause between things happening and your button pressing, this is already irritating today, and tomorrow service providers like this will cease to exist because, they will lose critical real estate on people's smartphones. Here, I would like to give you potentially an unexpected example, but I think it is very important. I'm referring here to Disney+. Everybody knows Disney to be the dream factory. Well, my childhood and even the childhood of my children, the wee years of my children, were marked by this particular brand. But obviously, Disney+ is the streaming service that Disney is very busy developing now. Interestingly, for the younger generation, Disney Plus is not a standalone brand. They actually believe that Disney itself and the streaming service are combined. They are one holistic entity. They do not see a difference between Disneyland and Disney Plus. They do not see them as different products. They're actually using all the capabilities they can in order to learn more about their clients. Now, what they are doing here may sound unorthodox. Like, they will really want to know at what time of the day I'm accessing a particular service, what is my average viewing length, do I prefer short reels or do I go for longer movies? But they try to take all this data into account. And at the same time, they may well recommend movies that I wouldn't be interested in watching, but, they get lookalike audiences. And quite often, I will like what they are proposing and recommending. What I really loved about it was the culture they had. And this was the culture of no limits. They said, to hell with boundaries, to hell with limitations on models or ideas. And this is, I guess, the journey to hyper-personalization that any company serious about its future will need to take. Now, what we're hearing from Sber and a number of other companies are making their journey in the same direction. What I'm referring to here is obviously a holistic customer view, as opposed to having just a modular, partial representation of the client. When you have this proper understanding of what your client is, what your client wants, you can actually do a lot in order to make sure that the authentic, real needs of the consumer are properly met. And if you are creating an ecosystem, or if you are participating in an ecosystem which also includes providers of other services, then you will get this kind of a situation, which is a triple win. which is a win-win-win situation. And another example here would be that of Yahoo Japan. Please note, this is not the big Yahoo, or shall I say now the small Yahoo, because everybody remembers the demise of the big Yahoo corporation. However, Yahoo Japan was a joint venture between Yahoo and SoftBank for Japan alone. It is common knowledge now that Yahoo eventually was bought by the other giant, and then they were de-invested, or rather Microsoft divested from them. But the thing is that Yahoo Japan continues to stay strong. In fact, in many market segments in Japan, Yahoo Japan is the veritable leader. They have been building their own very comfortable, very convenient ecosystem. And now they've got all sorts of offers. For example, if there is, for example, a natural catastrophe, an act of God happening, and if you would like to learn more about it, it is not some state-owned information and news service Japanese will turn to. This will be Yahoo Japan because it is more precise, it is more responsive, it is more, shall I say, interesting. It actually contains more data that people want to find. And there are many other services like this that Yahoo Japan has provided, and I'd even say has surrounded their clients with. And clients love this convenience, and they end up spending their money with Yahoo Japan. Next building block is autonomous actions and solutions, and let me jump straight to a particular example, which I think will speak volumes for itself. Everybody knows PayPal as a service, and I really loved what PayPal CTO said in an interview. He said, "We used to have just a single segment. Then we realized there were actually two, that is, sellers and buyers. And then our marketing people thought real hard and came up with 12 different segments. But now we have models working for us, and they're telling us that we have 277 million segments, meaning that every client we have is a segment." I'm mentioning this here, not in the hyper-personalization segment, although it would work there as well, for a reason. According to the CTO, the most important objective for a PayPal is to bring together something that might sound conflicting, and even an impossible combination, that is convenience and security. Say, as a holder of an account with PayPal, I really want my money to be duly protected. I certainly don't want anybody else to make any decisions about how to dispose of my money. At the same time, being a citizen of the digital world, I certainly want convenience. I want one-click access to my money. Actually, I want higher convenience than I would expect from a bank. So in order to address this particular conundrum, he said, we actually have to keep zones of models running in the background. In several seconds that a particular transaction takes to complete, numerous models are triggered and complete running in order to check if this is a bona fide or a fraudulent transaction. And naturally, a particular set of models we're using in each particular situation will change depending on the previous behavior of a particular user or even previous behavior on the system, which means that the set of models being triggered in a particular situation will be different for each and every opportunity. So they are using a multitude of different agents that make small decisions, like yes or no decisions. And there is no end to it. It is ideal for them when a transaction, at least a verification on a transaction, takes no more than 0 seconds, because this is what we, as their customers, expect. We want it to be seamless, and we also want high level of protection. My next point deals with smart AI interfaces and multi-channel service provision. I think it is well known or shall I say, we have all grown accustomed to dealing with the same company using a variety of channels, and we expect multi-channel experience. But let me give you a slightly unorthodox example here. I really love this case from eBay. Everybody knows eBay to be a giant that was propelled by the internet boom and that has enjoyed spectacular growth since then. What I love about eBay operations is that every 5 minutes they will recalculate customer preferences for each and every client they have. Every 5 minutes they actually refresh and reconfigure personal pages, personal accounts. Why are they doing it? Obviously, they're doing it in order to make sure that I can satisfy my needs with eBay as quickly as possible, because I am their boss and they want my money. Obviously, they are commercially driven. However, in order for this commercial model to work, they actually need millions of computations to be performed every second. And in this respect, eBay is ahead of the planet. And we need to learn from their example. Finally, all-pervasive or ubiquitous analytics and openness. Well, my first statement here is that there is significant expectations on the part of consumers about trust. Consumers will often want to know how their private data is handled by a particular organization, say a bank. And they expect a detailed answer, not, an official response. And a particularly nosy consumer may actually ask, "Dear apparel manufacturer, how can you prove you're not using child labor in your factories?" And I can, this question certainly resonates with me. Secondly, this opportunity to generate insights, both for suppliers and for customers, insights about their experience. Actually, the same should go as well for partners, does create outstanding customer experience, partner experience, supplier experience. It may sound like an unusual example, but I would love to quote here what the Federal Taxation Service of the Russian Federation is doing. Their consumers are the citizens of the Russian Federation, people like you and me. Well, you can say that their product is inextricably linked to our duties of paying our taxes, but what can we do? Interestingly, the head of the service said that we need to become invisible. There should be no barriers whatsoever for our clients, when they decide to pay their taxes. And also, he said, it is incredibly important to make sure that all our clients understand when they need to make their payment, what they're paying for, and so on and so forth. And we do appreciate that the Federal Taxation Service of the Russian Federation has actually been ranked the most advanced tax service in the world by the Financial Times. I guess you have heard about their apps, about the application, for example, that enables Russians to register as self-employed individuals and then pay all their taxes using the same application, which is a good example of how good they are. And this is the kind of transparency I was referring to. Where does all this lead? And this will serve as a kind of summary for my presentation, I hope. I'm trying to show here that while the conventional approach was that 100, maybe 200 people would use analytics in a company, we are transitioning towards the best-in-class approach, where an organization empowers all its employees to use the broad and big data, large data that it has. But ultimately, there should be transition to the retail ecosystems of the future, where we have hundreds of millions of clients, agents, employees, partners, suppliers, you name it, who will be using data. all the time. Naturally, the platform that we are going to use for that will play an important role. It's important to realize that we are talking about platforms that will have to perform several orders of magnitude more computations per second than the ones we have in operation today. And let me finish it with the following question. Do you think that large retailers will be able to survive without digital ecosystems? Do you believe they will be able to pull off all this, to implement all these 5 building blocks on their own, or will they have to create their own ecosystems or join existing ecosystems? Thank you very much.